I am joined by Penny Paddle this morning, who owns Paddle and Cocks law firm. So Penny, I'll pass over to you. If you'd like to tell us a bit about the firm, how long you've been in business for, and the sort of services which you specialise in.
Thanks, Sammie. Well, Paddle and Cocks is a full-service commercial law firm that was set up by myself and Verona Cocks back in 2018. So we specialise just in commercial work. So on the dispute side of the business, which is headed up by Verona, there is commercial litigation, property litigation, and employment. Verona also works in the areas of banking, finance, and insolvency litigation. Then on the non-contentious side of the business, it's the side of the business that I head up, and we carry out a full set of general corporate and commercial, so that's business services. So I help other businesses buy and sell businesses, restructure, and also on the commercial side, I help with setting up any types of commercial agreements, terms and conditions of business. And then we also have a thriving commercial property team as well that comes under the non-contentious side of the business, which is very busy at the moment.
Yes, I can imagine. Yeah, there's a lot of hats there, a lot of services which you cover, which is great. And is that predominantly, am I right thinking it's not just in Cornwall? Are you sort of nationwide with the services?
That's right. When we set up, we decided to go with what was then a relatively new model for law firms, which is working on a consultancy basis. So we don't have any employees sitting in offices, although we do have a small head office in Truro, which people can use if they want on a sort of hot desking basis. But everybody that works with us is a self-employed consultant, and everyone is set up to work remotely, and we therefore have quite a few consultants in the West Country, but we also have consultants in and around the London area, and some up north and some in Birmingham. So we can provide a truly national service.
Fantastic. And then do you have a particular area which is your sort of utmost and busiest area, or is it sort of evenly spread?
Well, it depends really on what's going on in the world. Originally, I'd say it was fairly evenly spread. And then in the pandemic, obviously employment and litigation became extremely busy. And there was a massive slowdown on the corporate commercial side and commercial property. But then those started to recover. And commercial property has certainly bounced back with vengeance.
Okay, fantastic. And then, so we're talking about 2018 now. I'm trying to get my head around this. That's pre-pandemic, yes?
Yes, yes.
Yeah. So in hindsight, how was the pandemic for you? Did that have very implications for your business at all, or?
Well, it was interesting because, as I said, we were set up on day one, so that's in 2018, for remote working. So all our systems were in place, and all our people were working remotely already. So whilst the traditional firms suddenly started scrabbling around and trying to change their IT systems so that they could enable people to work from home, for us, it was just business as usual.
Fantastic, yeah.
The other thing that the pandemic did, though, for us was that prior to the pandemic, there was still a lot of people out there who were a little bit sniffy about lawyers working from home, really. Is that possible? And suddenly the whole world realized that it was possible. And the pandemic had the effect of actually legitimizing our business model.
Fantastic. And you'd never have presumed that would have been an option, I guess, when you first started.
No, we could never have foreseen that.
Yeah, fantastic. That's amazing. It's good to sort of hear. It's refreshing to hear a positive spin on the pandemic, as opposed to, as you can imagine, there are lots of negatives which come away from the interview. So that's great.
Yeah.
Fantastic. And then in terms of your sort of background, have you always been a business owner? Were you a business owner previous to Paddle and Cocks, or were you an employee?
Well, I started out my legal career in a city law firm, which is now known as Mayor Brown and is one of the largest law firms in the city.
Sure.
And I qualified there in 1994 into their corporate and commercial team.
Mm-hmm.
From there, they sent me on secondment to one of their big corporate clients, which was one of the GE companies. And I went in there to look after their in-house legal team while they were looking to recruit someone to do it. And of course, in the end, they ended up recruiting me,
yep.
Which was brilliant. I then worked there for a while, and then various things happened, and I became an owner of another small law firm up in Sussex for a couple of years, but then decided to relocate down to Cornwall. So when I came to Cornwall, I took a massive pay cut and I went to work for one of the local firms to head up their corporate and commercial team. And then in 2012, that firm was closed down. And so I jumped into consultancy work, and I did that for 6 years. And during that period of time, I met Verona, who was also on a similar trajectory and had now moved into consultancy. And we decided between us that we would be much better off working together, and pooling our resources, doubling our marketing spend and promoting our own brand rather than promoting somebody else's brand. And we would also double our client database on day one as well. So
oh wow,
it was a no-brainer for us to do it.
Yeah, absolutely. It sounds like a definitely interesting sort of path to follow, and then it all sort of worked out that you met Verona and it was the same time frame. So that's perfect. Yeah, fantastic. So you never sort of, had you always had in the back of your mind that you wanted to have your own business, or was it something which just you jumped at the opportunity when it was there?
Yes. I just thought we can do this, so why not?
Yeah, fantastic. And then now that you've got that under your belt and you've had almost 4 years as a business owner, what would you sort of say?
Nearly 5 years, actually.
Nearly 5, yeah.
Nearly 5 years.
What would you say to any words of wisdom for people that were thinking about starting up their own business?
Well, don't think it's going to be easy, because it's not. Particularly in the legal sector, the regulation just becomes stricter and stricter every year, and there's more and more regulation. So we were quite unlucky in that we started out and have to put in place a whole raft of policies and procedures, which we did. And then the SRA decided to update all of their regulations, which meant that we then had to rewrite all those policies and procedures again. So we spent a lot of time doing that. If we were to set up again now, just as two of us on a limited budget, it's really tough. It's really tough.
How many people do you have working for you with over freelance positions?
We have 17 consultants at the moment.
Yeah.
And 3 admin staff.
Okay.
But we are constantly looking to recruit more good consultants. So there's no upper limit. We operate on a fee share basis, so it means we're not paying people to sit around and do nothing. We share our fees with them.
Oh, fantastic. Yeah. So almost the more work they bring in and the better sort of resources and stuff, that's the way that it's worked. Yeah.
And the more work they do, the better it is for them, because they get rewarded for it. Whereas in a traditional law firm, you get your salary, and it doesn't matter how many hours you work. So you could work 9 till 5 and get that salary. But in the real world, lawyers end up working really long hours. So you could be working 7:30 in the morning till 10 o'clock at night, but you would still be paid the same as if you were only working 9 till 5. Whereas for our consultants, obviously, they share in the rewards.
Fantastic. So that's such an incentive for them to keep pushing on and get the work finished at the highest standard they can. Yeah,
absolutely. And all of our consultants are very experienced lawyers. We don't take on anybody with less than a post-qualification experience of 5 years. But in actual fact, most of our people have got somewhere between 10 and 20 years post-qualification experience.
Wow. You say the real world there, but I can't help myself. I don't know if you've seen The Split on BBC. Well,
I have.
That's what I'm thinking, because she's doing all their crazy hours, the mornings and the late nights, and I can imagine it being the same.
Yeah, but maybe not quite as glamorous.
Yeah, no, yeah, I mean, absolutely. And then do you have, let's say if you have two sort of main pointers, pieces of advice that you could give to somebody who was going into business?
Well, just be prepared for whatever comes. So what is it they say? Hope for the best, plan for the worst, and take what comes.
Oh, fantastic. Yeah. And then finally, talking about the future of the business, we're coming up to 5 years in now, but where do you see Paddle & Cocks in another 5 years' time?
Well, there's no limit really to the amount of expansion that we can undertake using our current model. And so we are just recruiting like mad. And we'd like to see ourselves in 5 years' time with 300 consultants on board. Yeah.
Amazing. That's crazy. That's good aspirations to have from
yeah,
70 to
and a really good nationwide coverage of people as well.
Yeah. Would you perhaps be able to take on different parts of the nation then, obviously, with your growth of having more staff?
Yeah, I mean, we are doing that already, but at the moment it's little pockets of people. So we've got you know, as I said, a few consultants in the London area and in London, and then we've got a few in Birmingham, and then we've got a few up north. We didn't actually intend to go as far up north as we have done. The reason we focused on the West Country, London and Birmingham, is because that's where Verona and I have both previously worked, and we already have contacts and clients in those areas. But the way things have panned out, we've come across some really good consultants, and because of the way we're set up to work, it doesn't matter that we have consultants in Leeds doing work for a firm down here.
Yeah.
It's all remote and it's all doable.
I was going to ask actually if it was sort of based on location. So like you say, if you had a consultant in Leeds, would that prove beneficial for Leeds clients so they could go and have site meetings and meet face to face? But I guess it's that and virtual. They can represent somebody here in Cornwall.
Yes, absolutely.
Awesome.
I mean, the only thing is that sometimes we get asked to give independent legal advice. Sure. And prior to the pandemic, the banks absolutely would not have that done any other way except face to face. During the pandemic, they discovered that it could be done virtually by filling out a few different forms, which we did for 2 years, essentially. Now, they're going back to preferring face-to-face meetings, but you know, some banks will still consider the
option is still there.
Yes, yes.
If you say the right sentences and get in there, then I'm sure you can still do that.
Yes, and sign off on the right forms.
Yes. Fantastic. Yeah, that brings our interview to an end. So